Cool. So we talked about the economic model yesterday, the path from how do I net $100,000, for example, if my cost of sales and expenses are 30,000, just to pick a number, that's gross 130. How many transactions do I need in order to gross 130 so I can net 100? And then we took that and figured out how many listings would need to sell, how many listings we needed, how many listing appointments we needed to go on the seller side. And we did exactly the same thing on the buyer side. And then we talked about the lead generation model, and we talked about 3 paths to get to the 44 appointments that we needed. And the 3 paths we reviewed were prospecting, working our database for repeat and referral business, and marketing. Now, today, I'm going to get into what happens when you get that appointment, and we're focusing on listings. So I rewrote my 10-step listing presentation, and it's now 14 steps. Don't ask me how that happened. I have no idea. And would go with the flow, right? All right, we're not going to get through all 14 today. We're going to talk about this today, tomorrow, and Friday. So let's review all 14 steps first of all. Number 1, phone interview. Step number 2, prepare your CMA and your supply and demand analysis. Step number 3, it's 13 steps. Sorry, typo. It's 13 steps. Okay. Step number 3, oh, it's 14. I know, right? Step number 3, I forgot to write in here, is confirm the appointment and trial close. So if you're taking notes, and I hope you are, step number 3 is confirm the appointment and trial close. Step number 4, get on the listing channel. Number 5, Kodak moment. Step number 6, tour the home. 7, begin the conversation. 8, prioritize. 8, needs analysis. 9, prioritize needs. 10, trial close. 11, satisfy needs and expectations. 12, review the CMA. 13, review supply and demand. 14, close. I could, Eddie, if I can talk and type at the same time, I could. And I know, that's funny, right? Here's my promise to you. I haven't been sending out the video to everyone because, Sandra, if you could hit mute, that would be awesome.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm walking in.
It's okay. I haven't been sending you the videos by email because I've been posting them to my YouTube page, and Gmail keeps closing my account because I'm sending out too many emails. But I will send this one. All right? So you're going to be able to watch it and write those out. Or anybody super good at typing, I'll review all 14 steps again. Step number 1, phone interview. 2, prepare the CMA and the supply and demand analysis. 3, confirm the appointment and trial close. 4, get on the listing channel. 5, Kodak moment. 6, tour the home. 7, begin the conversation. 8, needs analysis. 9, prioritize needs. 10, trial close. 11, satisfy needs and expectations. 12, review a CMA. 13, review supply and demand analysis. 14, close. All right, let's start with a phone interview. The day before I go on the listing appointment, I'm going to call and I'm going to do a phone interview, and I'm going to role play with a number of different people as I do this because it just works better. So as I'm going to pick people versus asking so that this moves faster. So just get ready, and hopefully I don't pick on somebody that doesn't want to be picked. And if I role play with you, give me serious answers, right? Okay. So phone interview, I'm going to call Alex the day before the appointment, and I'm going to have a conversation that's going to enable me to better prepare for our appointment. And that's actually script. So Alex, I'd like to take a few minutes with you just to ask you a few questions so that I can prepare for our appointment tomorrow at 5. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Yeah, perfect. So my first question, Alex, is how long have you lived in your home?
30 years.
Wow, that's a long time. Awesome. And what kind of improvements have you made to your home in the last 5 years?
Impact windows, new roof, air conditioning.
Love it. By the way, I'm taking notes. As Alex is talking to me, I'm writing everything down. And if Alex tells me he planted a new grapefruit tree in the backyard, I'm writing that down because to Alex, that's an improvement. I'm not going to say, well, that's not really an improvement. This is not a time to have a conversation. This is the time to be Columbo. And all that means is you're a detective and you're collecting information.
Question, John.
Yes.
When I'm telling you what I've been doing, are you ever going to ask me whether or not it was permitted?
No. I'll ask you when I get there.
Okay.
I'm not gonna ask anything that's gonna throw a wrench in the works in this conversation. I'm also not qualifying, guys. That's really important for you to hear this because I know a lot of trainers and coaches are telling you this is a qualify call, and it's not. I'm going no matter what. So one of the questions I'm not gonna ask is how motivated are you to sell your home? I'll ask that when I get there, but I'm not gonna ask on the phone call. So next question after what kind of improvements have you made to your home is, I'm looking at tax records and I can see the square footage according to tax records. Just out of curiosity, what is the square foot? Sorry guys, it's been a while since I've had this conversation. What is the square footage of your home? And I'm looking for under air, Alex.
Okay, 2,000. What's the difference?
The garage is not under air.
Okay.
The lanai is not under air, but it would be included in total square footage when you're looking at the tax records.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. How many bedrooms do you have?
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. Cool. Bathrooms?
2.5.
Okay. Perfect. And 1-car garage or a 2-car garage?
None.
You don't have a garage.
I
Okay.
converted to a bedroom.
Okay. Now, this is an opportunity if I'm in judgment to have a conversation. I'm not going to. I'm just taking notes, right? Okay. Do you have a pool?
No, I do not.
You don't have a pool. Okay. And say that again.
I have an ocean.
Yeah, I love that. Do you back to the ocean? Because that was going to be my next question. What's your location like?
About 3 blocks from the beach.
You're 3 blocks from the beach. That's awesome. Do you back to another home or do you back to a street or a canal?
Another home.
Another home. Got it. Okay. And just out of curiosity, are you interviewing other realtors?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. That's cool. And am I the first agent you're going to interview?
Yes, you are.
Awesome. I was hoping that was going to be the answer. And Alex, have you thought about selling your home by owner?
Oh, but now that you mentioned it.
By the way, 15 years, I've never heard that.
Neither have I.
15 years. 15 years, I've asked that question on every single listing appointment. I've gone on thousands and I've never heard that. And I thought,
I don't have the time to go ahead and sell it myself. I just want an expert.
okay. By the way, if he says yes, cool. Then I know that that's going to be part of my listing presentation. I'm going to proactively overcome that in my listing presentation. I know ahead of time he's thinking of selling his home by owner. I know ahead of time that he's interviewing other agents. And I'm not going to ask him who he's interviewing. I don't really care. Only thing I care is that I'm first. Because if I'm first, I can be last. If I'm not first, then somebody else might get in before me, do a better job than me, and stop the shop and get the listing right there. So I always want to be first. We good so far, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. By the way, the reason you're asking these questions is because the information that you're pulling from public records and from previous listings could be incorrect. And the public records could tell you that the square footage is 2,000 square foot, and you get there and it's actually 2,500 square foot, and you've pulled the wrong comparables, and you're completely unprepared for the appointment. By the way, one more question. Alex, just out of curiosity, based on recent sales in your home, what do you feel your home will sell for?
Well, I was hoping that you'd be able to go ahead and help me with that. I really haven't, I'm not the expert.
Okay. By the way, that's one of the answers. And you will get that often. But you will also hear, well, a home down the street just sold for 700. Mine's much better, so I'm thinking 750. Again,
I always say that.
Yeah, right? I'm just collecting information. I'm not going to stop and go, are you nuts? Your home's not going to sell for more than 650. I'm also
I have
not.
a question, John.
Sure. Stop me anytime.
No, whenever you have a chance.
No, right now. Good.
My curiosity is, do you ever on that phone call initially ask, hey, just out of curiosity, sometime once you've already felt that they've opened up to you a little bit, just out of curiosity, what do you think that the agent could have done differently to get your home sold?
Yeah,
is that a question you have there on the phone, or is that a question you're going to ask in person so you could already kind of bring some data to have prepared to maybe overcome that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Frank. For me, it's in person. Ahead of time, I know that there's 3 reasons homes don't sell: price,
right, and I was going to
marketing.
say we knew it was going to be one of the 3, but would that be something that you would already want to know going to the appointment? Is my question.
I'm prepared for all 3.
Gotcha.
I'm prepared for all 3. Yeah. All right. So moving on. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Step 2, prepare your CMA. Pull every property in the neighborhood that sold in the last 6 months, whether it's comparable or not. Bring every single listing that sold in the last 6 months, whether it's comparable or not. Mistakes that I've made and I've seen other real estate agents make is not bring a comparable because it's not property because it's not comparable. And then what happens, and you know it, Eddie, is you're sitting at the listing table and they say, what about that home around the corner at 123 Main Street? And because you don't have it with you, it looks like you didn't do your job. However, when you have it with you, you can show them that property and say, you know, Frank, this property has 3,000 square foot and your home is 2,400 square foot. So it's not a real good comparable. So we're not going to use this one. And then I just push it off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
So pull every single property that sold in the last 6 months, pull every single property that's currently on the market and under contract in the neighborhood right now. I'm not going to go outside the neighborhood. 1 second, Frank, let me finish this thought. I'm not going to go outside the neighborhood unless I can't find 3 properties that sold, minimum. If I can't find 3 properties that sold in the last 6 months, then I'll go outside the neighborhood. Okay, Frank.
Hey, John, say I know how the appraiser is only going to go back 6 months. 9 times out of 10, the sellers don't know that. So, I mean, in my point of view, I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I'm going to go back. You know, if I don't find nothing that's similar to that property or even maybe a smaller square footage, maybe a smaller lot, I want to bring something like that and show that, especially if it's sold for less money than this guy's asking, and say, hey, I found this one as well. Just out of curiosity, I was looking at the square footage. Bedroom count's pretty similar to yours, but this one sold at this price. So I was just thinking, how did you come up with the value of yours to kind of get them to self-discover that their house is, you know, way overpriced?
Yeah, I think, so I'm going to, let me answer your question and then we're going to move on. Okay.
It's like a self-discovery thing with them sometimes.
It is, but at this point, it's not that time. Right now, right now, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Actually, I probably won't even get that today because that's going over the CMA. Right now, I'm just talking about what to pull. And I'm only going to go back 6 months. Now, if I went ahead and I said, now we're going to talk about reviewing the market analysis, I'm always going to start with Frank, we're only going to look at properties that have sold in the last 6 months because that's what an appraiser is going to do. And we're only looking at properties that an appraiser would use. That makes sense, doesn't it? And they don't have
Correct.
any other answer. They have to say yes to that. You're right. So we're looking for 3 properties that sold in the last 6 months within the neighborhood that are comparable. Now, if I can't find 3 properties in the neighborhood that are comparable, then I will go outside the neighborhood. And I'm looking for comparable neighborhoods. That's important. If you are going on an appointment in a neighborhood that the homes were built 20 years ago, and there's a neighborhood across the street that's new construction, the homes were built in the last 5 years, those may not be comparable properties. And that could be a huge mistake to use comparables from that neighborhood. So you have to find a neighborhood that's comparable to the one you're selling in. All right, so I'm going to pull everything that sold in the last 6 months. Remember, step
John, I also
12.
say to them, if
Yeah.
they say 123 Main Street was sold, and if it's not on my list, I also tell them it must be 6 months or older, is why I didn't pull it up.
Yeah, that's good, Eddie. So remember, step 12 is review the CMA. So I am going to go through these with you, and I'm going to talk about how we review the comparables in order to determine the right strategy. That's important. If I'm taking notes, I'm going to write the purpose of a market analysis is not to determine market value. The purpose of a market analysis is to determine the right strategy to get my client's goals accomplished. And give me a second. Hold on. Boom. Okay. So I've pulled all the properties that have sold in the last 6 months, comparable or not. I've pulled everything that's currently for sale and everything that's currently under contract within the neighborhood. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a supply and demand analysis in 3 price ranges. And I'm going to base these 3 price ranges on the answer that the seller gave me. In other words, if the seller said, I think my property is going to sell for $550, and I'm reviewing the CMA, and my opinion is this property might sell for $510 or $520, I'm going to pull the supply and demand from 500 to 550. I'm also going to pull 550 to 600 because there's a possibility that seller is thinking, I want to start at 560 so I can get 550. We've got 2 different markets here, guys. We have 550 to 600 and we have 500 to 550. This is a critical conversation because to go fishing in the wrong pond means you're not going to catch any fish. To put that property at 560, it's in the wrong pond. So I'm doing a supply and demand analysis from 550 to 600, from 5 to 550, and then also from 450 to 500. Because the right strategy, if market value is 510, and we're in a market where inventory is greater than 6 months, the right strategy might be to price this property at 495, even if the market value is 510, because we're in a buyer's market and we're pricing ahead of the market. In other words, we're pricing where the market is going, not where it is. And that's the right strategy to get that home sold. Now, how do you prepare a supply and demand analysis? Get ready to take notes. This is a math equation. A is all the properties that are currently for sale active within that price range. So I'm going to do a supply and demand analysis from 500 to 550. All of the single family homes, because my subject property is a single family home, from 500 to 550 within a 3-mile radius of my subject property. Again, script, you got to tell sellers why you're doing this. The reason we're looking up to 3 miles outside the neighborhood is because the buyer who's going to look at your home is going to look at homes in other neighborhoods that are 2 to 3 miles within your home. In other words, they're not only looking in your neighborhood. That's your competition. And the purpose of a supply and demand analysis is to determine what's the competition? That's how many homes are for sale. And what's demand? That's how many homes are selling every 30 days. So A is all the properties that are currently for sale within a 2 to 3 mile radius of the subject property within that price range. B is all the properties that have sold within the last 6 months in the same price range within a 2 to 3 mile radius. C is B divided by 6. In other words, if there were 18 homes that sold, 3 are selling every 30 days. If there were 30 homes that sold, 5 are selling every 30 days. Now, D. D is A divided by C. In other words, if there were 18 properties that are currently for sale between 500 and 550, that's A, that's the inventory. B was there 18 properties that sold in the last 6 months. C is B divided by 6, so that means there's 3 selling every 30 days. Then D is 18 divided by 3. We have a 6-month supply of inventory. That also means in order to sell your home in that price range, you have to be one of the top 3 properties. Now I'm going to do the same exercise for 550 to 600 and the same exercise from 450 to 500. So when I show up at your home and I'm sitting at your kitchen table and we're reviewing the properties that currently sold, I'm going to slow down because this is important. We're reviewing the properties that currently sold. We are getting a feeling for where your home needs to be in order for you to sell. In other words, from low to high or from high to low, we are getting a range from $520,000 to $560,000. On the low end, we're looking at 520. On the high end, we're looking at 560. Now, based on that, I want to see what the market looks like from 5 to 550, because 520 and 540 are in that market. Then I want to see what the market looks like from 550 to 6, because choosing which market to compete in will be the difference between this home selling and not selling in a buyer's market. Seller's market, it doesn't matter as much. However, in a buyer's market, this becomes critically important. For all of you who have $1 million listings in Parkland that are just sitting there, this is why. All right, I'm going to stop unless you ask some questions.
John, can I ask a question? It's Michael.
Hey, Michael.
How you doing? I had one that I'm working on with a customer in New York who has a condo on Fort Lauderdale Beach. And I noticed the 2 buildings, one faces east, which is the ocean exposure. His is in the south exposure. I also noticed that the east building sells for more, and he's on the 2nd floor. And I noticed that seemed to be, when I did an analysis of what had sold, that depending on the floor, there was a variance anywhere from $4,000 a floor on the east building to $3,000 a floor. And I took that into account on the comparable properties when I did the CMA. Is that correct approach? I mean, it's an estimate, but it seemed like it was there. It was real.
You're a great real estate agent, Michael. You absolutely know what you're doing and you're spot on. When it comes to waterfront condos, properties that face the ocean are typically going to sell for more. Also, when it comes to condos that are in a building, the higher you go, the more valuable the property. A property on the 10th floor is going to sell for more than one on the 2nd floor.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it's the first time I did it, and I wanted to make sure I had the theory right behind it. Okay,
you're spot on. You're a great real estate agent. You know what you're doing. Absolutely. By the way, on a CMA analysis on that, especially if we're talking waterfront condos here in South Florida, there's a ton of them for sale. I'm only looking if my subject property faces the ocean that's on the east side, I'm only looking at properties that are on the east side because I'm not really competing with those properties that are on the west side.
I
Vice
was lucky. I was
versa.
able, yeah.
Vice versa. If my home is on the west side, I'm not looking at properties on the east side because I'm not competing with them. If I'm selling a Mercedes, I'm not competing with the Volkswagen dealership across the street.
Right.
You also have the advantage of looking at the stacks and trying to pick the same stack as well, so it's the same floor plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. And I was able to find them actually in the same building, so it was made a little bit easier.
Yeah. Love your backdrop there, by the way. That looks like Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Yeah, it is. I picked it up. It's a free Getty image.
Yeah. Love it. Cool. All right, guys, talk to me. I know you have a few more questions around this, so this is the time to ask. Yes, Alex.
Going back to neighborhoods, and for instance, in your neighborhood, you have different subdivisions along the way. How do you handle if your subject property is on the borderline between, Heron Bay and Bay Ridge or whatever? Cross the street to Bay Ridge or in a subdivision?
Pick
I found out
properties
a pretty
from
good
both.
trick for that.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
When you're in the MLS and you scroll into the neighborhoods or the subdivisions, if you click the little street, it'll light up whatever community or subdivision you're in, and then you could build your graph right around those streets, which is the neighborhood for that subdivision or that community.
I understand that. When I'm doing my property search, I'll usually, instead of using area 345 or whatever, or even this subdivision, I'll go with the map. But the question again is, for instance, if I'm right on the borderline between Lauderdale by the Sea and Pompano, do I cross over into Pompano if I'm right on the line?
Well, the question,
Gotcha.
let me get this one. The question is, are they comparable neighborhoods, Alex?
Yeah, I guess they could be, although there might be little tweaks on benefits.
What are the
Such as,
tweaks?
The tweak might be that Heron Bay has a clubhouse with a pool and a playground where the other one may not.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. I'm
HOAs
not
can be
I'm not going outside the neighborhood
Okay.
if
Good enough.
I've got enough comparables within the neighborhood. Look, I sold a property west coast of Florida, but a waterfront property, and one side of the street was part of a neighborhood that had access to a boat ramp that was not public, that was privately owned by that neighborhood. Same street, the other side, they didn't have access, right?
Right.
Properties that had access to that private boat ramp were worth more money. On
One
the
more question for you, John.
same street. Yes.
This was going to age you. Do you bring technology with you, such as iPads or whatever? So if you have to open up and look at something, it's been a while since. Yeah, exactly. It's been a while since you've gone out on a listing presentation.
It's all paper.
Okay.
It's all paper. I also never used a pre-listing package that I would send ahead of time. I never used PowerPoint. I never went through a fancy listing presentation. Alex, it's me and you sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook for me to take notes, with comparables for us to look at, and with paperwork because you're going to list with me.
Okay, so you're bringing hard copy paper listing agreement.
Well, I think I still would.
Okay.
Yes. I think I still would. Michael Topo, I'm loving the beard, dude. I haven't seen you in a while.
Facial fuzz.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah.
So my thought on that, whoever brought up the question about making sure that we're doing a great comparable, is I really hone in and look at the legal description on the tax record, and that really allows me to get super, super local. And that's a great tool that I like to use, guys. That could be beneficial for you.
Good stuff.
John, I have a quick
Yeah.
question for you. And I've
Uh-huh.
learned this from an agent that sold thousands of houses, Roman Pavlik.
Sure.
Roman's, me and him have talked about expireds, and obviously he's went on hundreds of them. He sends out an email prior to going out on an expired listing to homes that have sold within the neighborhood within the past 6 months. Example, say this property's asking $700,000. He sold that. he's sending the seller everything that's sold probably from, 625 to 700 in the past 6 months that haven't sold prior to going out to the appointment within like 2 days
Okay.
with a full breakdown of, the property, this property, that property. And I mean, it's a real detailed, itemized email. Now, the reason that for that whole email, from my understanding, is to give the seller a minute to understand everything that you're sending them to digest it. Then when you actually get there to the appointment, it's not like you're just trying to beat them up over the price. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, my goal when I'm sitting at the kitchen table with you, Frank, is number one, to determine what your goals are and what your expectations are.
Right, and you're going to probably get that through the walk through the house with the person. You're going to build that relationship.
Well, yes and no. We're going to build a relationship, but when we're sitting at the kitchen table, and now I'm jumping ahead to step whatever, begin the conversation. When we're sitting at the kitchen table, I'm going to start the conversation with, Frank, one of three things happen when I meet with a potential seller like you. One of those three things is going to happen today. Either number one, they understand and appreciate the benefits that I have to offer and they hire me. The second thing that happens, and occasionally, is they don't hire me. And the third thing that sometimes happens is I may choose to turn the opportunity down. Now, you may be wondering why I would choose to turn the opportunity down, and I think you'll actually like the answer. You see, if I feel that a seller has a goal or an expectation that I can't meet or exceed, I would rather turn the opportunity down today than let you down 6 months from now. Is that fair?
Yeah,
now,
sounds good.
In order for me to know if I can meet your goals, I need to ask you a couple questions. So Frank, I'm going to go through a needs analysis in order to determine what their values are. And it's never going to be a conversation about whether or not we agree on the price. It's going to be a conversation around what's the right strategy to get your home sold. And if the end result of this conversation is you have an expectation that I can't meet, or you have a goal that I can't meet or exceed, I'm not going to beat you up on the price. I'm simply going to turn the opportunity down. That's all. Now, my concern with Roman's strategy is this. If I'm a seller and I get that, I might get into judgment and feel that you're going to try and beat me up on the price. And I might just cancel the appointment. And I'm not saying Roman's wrong and I'm right. What I'm saying is this is how I listed 12 to 15 homes every month for 15 years. I'm not going to do anything that's going to stop me from going on that appointment, because until I get to your home, until I'm sitting at your kitchen table, I'm not going to truly understand what your motivation is and whether or not I can help you. And I'm not trying to convince you of anything before I get there. Matter of fact, I'm not trying to convince you of anything when I do get there. I want you to self-discover that I'm the right agent for the job.
May I say something?
It's just a different strategy. That's all.
I got you.
I'm not saying Roman's wrong. He's clearly selling lots of houses.
I was gonna ask you, so you would just strategize it differently and just not go with anything from that approach at all?
I would not do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, Natalie.
I was Roman's sales manager for a little while, so I have a personal relationship with him, just like Frank does. He does that only if he knows the personality he's dealing with, such like the C personality. They would be the only person that would open that kind of crap up and want that information ahead of time. He also just does an email about your home's listed at Zillow at this price, your home's at this price on Trulia. So he's preparing them that whatever they looked at on the internet is false. That's his main email. And once he knows the person's personality, if it's a C personality, he'll send all that stuff that Frank's talking about. He has different strategies for each person.
That's great information. All right,
John?
guys. Yes, talk to me.
Hi, this is Danny. We kind of skipped past. I wanted to ask you a question about CMAs and selecting the neighborhood or subdivision, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. I found that in practicing to do CMAs, sometimes I have a hard time zeroing in on the subdivision because maybe not as many homes have sold in the last 6 months, or it's one of those weird subdivisions where like you look at the legal description and it'll say, I don't know, Wyndham Lakes, and it has phase 1, phase 2, or whatever, one of those. And then you pull up the map and you have a number of different separating things. Like you have a road that separates the houses, you have a body of water, and it's just a little hard for me to identify the difference between this subdivision and that subdivision. And then when I pull up the listings, I see that the homes are different. So then I get a little confused because I'm like, okay, what are the right comparables to choose in this situation? Because I want to stay specific to the subdivision or neighborhood, but there's not enough, homes that have sold, and I'm trying to find a similar neighborhood, but then the subdivision kind of gets a little confusing for me. Would you be able to help me figure out, what I'm doing wrong or how I can get better at that?
Well, first of all, Danny, you're not doing anything wrong. Secondly, it's great to see you on this call again. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, and then lastly, guys, I'm going to answer this question, and I have to jump because I have a 9:10 huddle that I have to be on, and it's 9:07. So I'm going to use Wyndham Lakes, for example. I'm going to pull everything that sold in Wyndham Lakes in the last 6 months, whether it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4. Now that might be 36 properties, by the way. We're not going to look at 36 properties in depth, but we're going to look at the ones that are most comparable. Now, because I pulled all 36, Danny, once I get to your home and I get an opportunity to get to know your home better, in other words, I'm able to look at the details, the facts, the metrics that have the greatest impact on market value. In other words, location, age, size, how many bedrooms and bathrooms, does your home have a pool, doesn't have a pool, what are the amenities that come with your property, what's the condition of your property, how updated is your home. All of those factors, I'm looking for properties in Wyndham Lakes that are most comparable to yours. Now, if I'm in Wyndham Lakes and there's phase 1, then I'm looking for 3 properties that sold in phase 1 in the last 6 months. Ideally, I'm not going to leave phase 1 unless there hasn't been 3 homes sold or I can't find 3 comparables. If I can't find 3 good comparables, then I'll look at phase 2. And usually in properties like Wyndham Lakes, it has to do with the year that they were built. So phase 1, the homes might be 20 years old, whereas in phase 4, the homes are only 10 years old. So pay attention to that. But ideally, I'm finding 3 properties in Wyndham Lakes phase 1. If I can't find 3 great comparables, then I will go look at properties in phase 2 as well.
Okay.
Quick question.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Do you ever search the subdivision sales on BCPA?
Always.
All right. Yeah, I do too. I just asked that because I've come to find out that from just asking people, a lot of people don't do it.
Well, always, because if it's a for sale by owner, it won't be in the
Right.
MLS.
Right.
And that's another mistake that we make is we show up and we don't know about the property down the street that's sold by owner.
Right.
All right, guys. I love all of the questions. Holy cow. Natalie, did you want to say something? You're either waving in an airplane.
Waving, bye.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to pick up right where we left off today. We got through 3 steps. I love that.
Thanks, John.
We might be doing this for the next week, which is awesome, right? If I
Thank
can help you guys master anything, it's going to be this. Everything else,
great.
everything else becomes easy. Make it a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Bye,
Thank you.
John.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.